Good afternoon, everybody. Just going to make a slow start so that we can give all of the participants who have registered for the session the chance to join. And then once the number has started to hold steady, we'll make an official start on the session this afternoon. Okay. Great. I can see that it started to slow down a little bit so we can make a formal start. So welcome everybody to the next session in our Virtual Experience Week event, and huge congratulations to all of you on your recent offer of a place on the Oxford MBA to make a start this coming September. My name is Hannah Griffiths. I'm one of the recruitment managers for the Oxford MBA, and delighted to be here this afternoon and to be joined by my colleague Bronwyn Duptig. Bronwyn's going to be leading the session for us this afternoon, which will be focused on the Skull Centre and the Impact Lab, which I know will be one of the co-curriculars that a lot of you will have heard about when you have been researching the Oxford MBA. We'd like the session to be as interactive as possible, so if you do have questions about any of the content that Bronwyn covers, or more general questions about the Skull Centre or the Impact Lab, do feel free to send those through during the session. You can do that using the Q&A button that you see on your screen, and we'll try to get through some of those questions before the end of the session this afternoon. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Bronwyn to make a start on the session.
Thank you so much, Hannah. Hello, everybody. It's wonderful to be with you this morning, this afternoon, and this evening. Again, just as Hannah has said, I'm here to tell you a little bit more about the Skull Centre and the Impact Lab, and a bit how the Skull Centre coincides with your Oxford MBA and your MBA experience, and how it can complement your journey in Oxford as well. So I'm a senior program manager for social impact education. I lead the Impact Lab program, but I also lead a number of other programs at the Skull Centre, but the Impact Lab is what we're here to talk to about today. I've been in Oxford now for 3 years, half of that time online and half of that time in person, almost exactly, and hoping we can continue to deliver in person. I work with our social impact programs, but I also work alongside some of our OBNs and support a lot of the social impact work that our students do, that our faculty does, and look for the interconnections between them. So you can reach out to me if you want to know more about an impact-driven student's journey during your Oxford MBA. You can reach out to me about any of the Skull Centre activities. I previously, before I joined the Skull Centre, I worked at Monash, South Africa, where I led our community engagement programs and research portfolio. I'm also a social entrepreneur and a co-founder of a social impact business in South Africa called Engage South Africa, which focuses on democracy and citizenship promotion. And before I came into education, I was working at the United Nations Industrial Development Organization, mostly focusing on macroeconomic development and import substitution. Along with my professional roles, I've also been a bartender, a nanny, and I've sold sandwiches in a market. And all of these are the skills that I bring to the Impact Lab. So the Skull Centre's approach and our commitment to you is really to strengthen the Oxford MBA, specifically for students who are committed to having an impact career and leading systemic change. And we're going to get into that a little bit later. So the way we do this is through education, which is our co-curricular activities and our curricular activities, helping with building your networks, and then research as well. So the Impact Lab is a co-curricular program designed to support high potential impact students to gain knowledge, skills, and attitudes towards social and environmental problems throughout their career. And we're going to get more into the Impact Lab a little bit later, so I'll skip through that for now. The Skull Centre also runs one of the MBA core programs, which is Global Threats and Opportunities Oxford. This is one of those great programs where you get to work on teams with other MBAs. A lot of the benefit of the MBA will be the courses that you do, but also the global body that the MBA convenes and the networks that you can build. So the Go-To program is a team-based core MBA module that focuses on tackling world-scale problems through systems change. And we look at systems analysis, human-centered design, scenario planning, and negotiation as well. This is how Go-To will look in your MBA year, normally run in the Hillary term. It starts with a lot of coursework, deep into research around a systems change problem, and then we have our Go-To summit at the end. So we ask you to go deep into a problem before you come up with solutions, and then a little bit of a focus at the end. Map the System is a global competition that we run with 72 universities across the world. This happens every year. We have an Oxford final and a global final as well. Map the System, again, is a systems mapping competition. It's a little bit like a social innovation competition that's flipped on its head. We have a lot of teams participating in this year. Instead of asking you to come up with a solution, we ask you to look at a problem deeply, and we ask you how well have you understood the problem before you jump into quick solutions. This year, we'll be having 40 teams present their work from across the world in Oxford in June. And this is a co-curricular activity that you can get involved in over above your MBA. The SCOL Center also is in partnership with the business school, and we host the SCOL World Forum every year in April. This is a global convening of around 4,000 people that come into Oxford. It has been run virtually the last 3 years. However, we're looking at 2023 to be having this run in person. And it's around using social entrepreneurship to tackle some large scale social problems. There's great opportunities for students to get involved in the SCOL World Forum. You can attend the forum, you can blog for the forum, and every year I work alongside the MBA students to convene your own event at the forum as well. We also run the SCOL Scholarship, so some of you may have been aware of the SCOL Scholarship. Some of you may have applied for the SCOL Scholarship. We're currently in the shortlisting process at the moment. These are our SCOL Scholars for 2021, 2022. If you are interested in the SCOL Scholarship, you're welcome to reach out to them on LinkedIn, as well as our rest of our scholar community, to find out a little bit more about what the SCOL Scholarship is. We're looking for MBA students who have an impact-driven career, but more specifically focusing on using social entrepreneurship principles to solve social problems within their home countries. We also have a broad range of affiliates with the SCOL Center. We've got visiting fellows, we have knowledge equity fellows, early career research fellows, executives in residence, and associate fellows. And as I said before, we are really focused on helping you build out that network as a toolkit of what you need to succeed in your and have a high impact in your careers moving forward. And we use and work with these fellows and associates to build our programs, to build our research portfolio. And a number of these people will be available to meet with one-on-one, whether you join the Impact Lab or not. These fellows and associates are available and open to the rest of our MBA cohort. You'll be able to go onto our website and read their bios. The SCOL Center also works alongside faculty and our postdocs to do a lot of research and insights. What really attracted me to the SCOL Center is this idea of bridging research and practice. And I think this is something that we do really well, that we're really excited about. So we have learned, practice, and lived experiences, and we have conversations around systems change and leading for impact throughout the year. We have a network of action-orientated researchers that you can get in, and seminars, including research accelerator grants that we offer to postgrads across the university, and a number of research convenings that are publicly open to all. We also have a systems week that we run every year from the business school, and we recruit and work with MBA students to help us deliver that. If you want to know specifically more about the research portfolio, you can have a look on our website or contact Jessica Jacobson, as you see there. So the SCOL Center was founded about 20 years ago almost now within the Said Business School. And when we started, social impact was really separate from the private sector. And we had this traditional view of social impact being very separate from business. And over the time, we see it start to integrate. And now we see a lot of the MBA core content itself, as well as the programs that we deliver, this interconnection between social impact and the private sector. And we believe in social entrepreneuring, not just as an entrepreneur, traditional form of somebody who starts something new. We like to use social entrepreneuring as a verb. So you can be social entrepreneuring in the public sector, you can be social entrepreneuring in the private sector, you can be social entrepreneuring in civil society organizations. It's about using practices and traditional entrepreneurship principles to create change in these areas. We don't believe in band-aid solutions to social problems, but really deeply integrated understanding of the interconnected systems in social problems, to create deep and lasting transformative change on a long-term scale instead of these quick band-aid solutions. Some framing that really might help you think about your impact career as an MBA student are the different pathways you have to an impact career. So we like to think of them in 3 different ways, and a lot of the work in the Impact Lab is also framed around these 3 pathways. So we have a social entrepreneur, and a social entrepreneur is somebody who's working within a large corporation and firm, making change from the inside out, so trying to change something from within an existing organization. Then you have a social entrepreneur, somebody who's starting something new. It could be a new project, it could be a new organization, a new company, but something that hasn't been tried before. And it could be a product or service, it could be a civil society movement, but a social entrepreneur is about starting something new that wasn't created before. And then we've got this other term that could be a bit confusing, but it's really exciting, and that is a social extrapreneur. So a social extrapreneur is someone who can work across systems boundaries. These are more sort of like large-term conveners that can work beyond organizations, beyond a single unit, but bring people together to solve complex social problems across sectors as well. So you might want to think a little bit about, where you are currently at the moment as a social entrepreneur, and social extrapreneur, and how you maybe want to use your MBA to pivot into those different areas and what you might need along the way. So there's a really vibrant impact ecosystem at Oxford. So I don't need to tell you this. You know this when you look at our website, when you look at information about the MBA. So the Skoll Center is one part of that ecosystem, but there's the Entrepreneurship Center through your EP projects. There's Enterprising Oxford. There's Marmalade, which is sort of an ecosystem event run alongside the Skoll World Forum. There's Oxford University Innovation, Creative Destructive Lab. There's a lot of information, a lot of things happening in Oxford. So just because you're an impact-driven student, it doesn't mean that maybe the Impact Lab is for you, or just that the work at the Skoll Center is you. There's a really broad pool of experience and expertise to pull from. And I would encourage you to really look into some of the things that are offered at the business school, but also at the broader university, that you can pull together a portfolio to really create a bespoke experience for you. One of the hardest things at Oxford is making decisions about what to do. And if you want help doing that, I'm happy to do student one-on-ones. I start from July, August, this coming summer. So let's go a little bit into the Impact Lab program, because that's what we're here to talk about today. So the Impact Lab program aims is really to complement your existing MBA curriculum by providing this co-curricular pathway for high potential impact-driven students. So through an application process, we select impact-driven students who we really feel are wanting to commit their MBA year to accelerating their impact careers and their influence. We want to build a community of practice on the cohort by increasing connection. So on Impact Lab, we do a number of human design experiments in a way to get you to get to know each other, to have peer learning, to co-create on projects, and to really build out a community of practice that will last beyond your single year at Oxford, and that you can draw on as a community as you move forward in your work. And a part of that is our alumni community as well. We also want to strengthen your overall student experience as well. And we have additional open programming throughout the year that is open to other MBA students, as well as students from across the University of Oxford. And so there will be parts of Impact Lab that are available only to Impact Lab students, because we're trying to build this deep connection with this cohort. And there's other content that will be available to everyone. So the Impact Lab is a bit of a commitment over the course of your MBA year. So we ask you to think deeply about that commitment. Are you committed to doing the additional 70 hours of Impact Lab over and above your MBA? Or are there other things that you would like to engage with throughout the year? And hopefully this session will help you make some of those decisions. And then we also have these exciting things, which I like to call like emergent learning outcomes, right? So what are the learning incomes, first of all, the experiences that you teach each other and that you bring to the program? So I always think the richness of the MBA program is having all of these students come from around the world, having experience in impact investing in 5 or different countries, different perspectives, having experience in public sector innovation, or in social entrepreneurship, in tech companies versus civil society organizations. You bring in these learning incomes that we can share together, which makes every cohort unique. We have emergent learning outcomes, what things that surprise us throughout the year, things that we didn't expect to learn, and then our intended learning outgoings as well. What will you practice in your MBA year that leads you to where you want to go? So we're very flexible. And that's the best thing about some of the co-curricular programs, is that your core MBA curriculum is set, but the co-curricular programs you can really shape a lot. These are some of the testimonials from the Impact Lab students, but I run the Impact Lab program, so of course I'm really biased. So I'll let you have a read these, so you can hear from our participants. The lab participants are also super excited to hear from you. So if you wanted to reach out to Impact Lab students, or if you wanted to be connected to any of our alumni to help you make a decision whether the Oxford MBA is for you or the Impact Lab is for you, I'm happy for you to reach out as well. All right, I'll answer your questions at the end. Okay. So application process and timeline. Okay, so our applications open in July, towards the end of July. I don't have exact dates for you, but they will be up on the website, and they also will be up on your MBA portal. It's called the MBA portal when you accept your offer. They open in July 2022. We have an informational webinar similar to this, but getting a little bit more deep into the content. We do have an application process, which includes interviews with our alumni, and we have an announcement in the second week of September before you arrive for your MBA. If you're thinking you want some time to think about whether you want to do an Impact Lab or not, there is a second cohort that we have in Michaelmas, in Hillary. So we've got our first cohort in Michaelmas, second cohort in Hillary, and the applications for the Hillary cohort open a little bit later in the year, in November. And then there's common events and a graduation that we spend time together in Trinity. We are also going to be accepting this year, for the first time, we piloted having students that are non-MBAs on the Impact Lab course, and they added a lot of richness and discussion into the class content. People who are doing master's degrees or DPhils across the university, that are bringing in their expertise in geography and environmental studies, in migration studies, in AI, into our Impact Lab classroom. And it's also an opportunity for you to learn and mix with non-MBA students. So on each cohort, we'll typically take 25 students, sometimes 26 if we can't make a decision, or 27, but typically 25 students. And out of those 25 students, 18 to 20 will be MBA students. And that's for the core MBA, the core Impact Lab cohort. So who are we looking for? What is really our criteria? So we're looking for MBAs who really want to demonstrate a commitment to having an impact career. So people who have already been working in impact, that show that they are committed to continuing to work in impact. We typically look for people who have 3 years plus experience. This helps us skip over some of the foundational knowledge in class and kind of really dig deeper into content and look at it a little bit more critically so we don't become an echo chamber. We're looking for a growth mindset. So this is really an openness to learning. We know that you are all exceptional. You've passed your GMAT, you've been offered a place on the Oxford MBA, but how open are you to learning from others? And so this really comes into the interview part of your Impact Lab application. And then we also want students who are committed to a personal and professional developmental process. And so we ask you to kind of look at yourself within the system. So we're going to learn about frameworks and systems and approaches to building movements, to building impact investing strategies. But we're also going to ask you to kind of bend that beam of observation onto yourself as well, and understanding yourself in the system and understanding your power and privilege, and thinking about sort of like what agency do you have to influence the system around you and how are you influenced by that system. So Impact Lab is a little bit different to some of the other really core sort of like content and hard skills labs, because we really focus a lot on personal development. So we're looking for students who are ready to do that, and we're here to support you to do that. Okay, so once you're accepted into the Impact Lab program, what happens? So like I said, we have 2 cohorts. So we deliver one cohort in Michaelmas, we deliver the entire program, and the second one in Hillary, and then you come together in Trinity for common events. So within that one term of your 10 weeks, or your 8 weeks actually, we have a retreat. So we do a residential where we focus on personal development and leadership building skills. Then we do a number of core modules during the MBA weeks. And those modules are delivered on Tuesday evenings and Friday mornings. So they don't clash with any classes. And you're typically looking at about 4 to 5 additional hours a week for those modules. There will be work to do. There will be case studies to read. We do ask you to be prepared for every session. We also have storytelling, and I'll explain about that a little bit later as well. Storytelling is a really core part of Impact Lab. It's not necessarily just delivered like a module. That's why it stands out. We want you to be able to tell complex stories about social change in ways that really matter, to be able to shape your audience's sort of attitudes and behavior towards the issues that you're speaking about. And so we teach you about storytelling through one of our exceptional fellows called Miriam Pasha. And then we have these storytelling cafes that happen in social enterprises around Oxford. We take you out of the business school, and every Impact Lab student stands up and tells a story. And then what we've done this year for the first time, which has really worked out very well, we pair you with mentors to help set personal and professional targets in your year. And these mentors are drawn from the Impact Lab alumni, as well as our School Scholar alumni as well. And so these are what your core modules are. So somebody's asked me, what is the definition of an impact career? Maybe I should answer that question quickly. So the definition of an impact career is whether you want to focus specifically on tackling social and environmental problems. And that impact career is really broad because we take a systems perspective and an interdisciplinary approach. We don't have sort of a set target and say, this is an impact career. And so an impact career can be working in the public sector, can be working in the private sector, can be working on environmental issues, it can be working on EDI issues, it can be working on waste management. So really, really broad. We're just looking for people who are ready to really step up and work with others around tackling these types of problems. So our core modules are focused on sort of like, what are the foundations of social impact? So what are these sort of like these foundations, these non-negotiables that we want you to know in detail before you step out into your impact career? And this is obviously, we look at the SDGs because we need to start somewhere. And we look at them as a way to sort of illustrate social problems. What are social environmental problems? how are they interconnected in this type of framework? We know that many of you have worked with the SDGs already, that have maybe have been involved in reporting on the Sustainable Development Goals, but it gives us a deep foundation, and we take a critical look on how they were developed, where they came from, what are their indicators, and also what's going to happen in 2030. Are we going to reach them? Are we not going to reach them? We're getting really close as well. So that's where we start. And then we look at systems change. So looking from social problems, we look at understanding them within the systems. And we want to start identifying root causes. And we want you to really have a systems perspective on social environmental problems. And we do this through a number of case studies. And then after we look at systems, we look at movement building. So we know that, our systems are often people in motion. And there hasn't been a large scale systems change problem that has been solved that doesn't coincide with a global civil society movement at the same time. And so we really dig deep into movement theory and what really drives people's actions in civil society to really catalyze change on an individual level, but then also on a movement level as well. And then we look at impact accountability, and we used to call this impact measurement, but now we call it impact accountability because we want to look beyond necessarily just measurement, but what are the tools and practices and frameworks that we use to keep us accountable for the way that we validate our theory of change and how we know that these things are occurring in practice. So these are the core modules that are open to Impact Lab students only. Then we have our retreat days and our mentorship as well. And again, those are really focused on building strong relationships within the Impact Lab and also focused on leadership development. And this is for the Impact Lab students only. Again, this is our storytelling events. This is a picture from one of our first cohorts at Common Ground, which is a social enterprise in Oxford. And we get together in really informal ways and really practice the art of storytelling. As all of you know, feedback is a gift, but some of us struggle to receive feedback sometimes, or sometimes we struggle to know how to give feedback in a constructive way. And what I love about storytelling is that everybody has advice for everybody else, but as soon as you get up there yourself, you realize how vulnerable you are in telling a story. So some of you might be better public speakers than others, but the way we run the storytelling cafes, they're really safe spaces for you to practice and articulate the things that you care about in a public setting, but without any photos or videos. And it creates a safe space for you to share maybe some radical ideas and test them out amongst each other in a way that feels safe. And I think, in today's age where everything is so public, those type of spaces are so important for leaders. And these are the type of spaces that we create through our storytelling cafes. And you'll get feedback from our storytelling coach, Miriam Pasha, but you'll also get feedback from each and every single person in the room as well, which is exciting. So just to give you an overview, this is how your Impact Lab journey would look if you were accepted into the program. So we start with our retreat, and then we've got our module 1 to 4 kind of woven throughout the term with the storytelling cafes in between. We also run an Impact Careers Week, which is done in collaboration with our careers department. And this is just a full week where you get one-on-one coaching around making decisions about your career early on in the year as well. And that is hosted by Dan Kunan, who leads our Impact Careers portfolio. And no doubt you will be hearing from him soon once you've accepted your offer, if not before. And then typically this is how the final term would look. So we have an alumni mixer event. We have launched our alumni community this year. Our alumni community are going to start working on developing a podcast. So they have a mixer event so that you can get to know alumni that are from similar regions than you, maybe regions that you want to work in a global scale, but also different sectors as well. So we're actually doing an online alumni mixer so that we can continue to connect with our global alumni. And then we'll do an in-person mixer in Oxford as well that you'll be able to attend as a student. And then we have a graduation party, which is separate from your Oxford graduation that we have in June. So when you arrive for your launch week, we run this amazing kickoff session called You Belong in Impact. So if you have accepted your offer already, make sure that you put this on your calendar to attend. We hear from alumni working in a broad range of sectors, and it's really exciting to think about what are the different options and how you can use the MBA to accelerate your career. And there might even be impact career options that you didn't know were available to you. And so this is a really big event that we have at the beginning of every launch week to really help you think about your career and your year through the lens of the alumni who have been before you. One of the important sessions around Impact Lab is we do these student lunchtime sessions. This is open to all MBA students. So on Impact Lab, as you can see, we provide you modules and storytellings and help you think about your personal development as a leader. But we also know there's so much richness in every cohort that comes in. And we want to make sure that we give you the opportunity to teach each other. So we ask every Impact Lab student not to only attend sessions, but also to run their own session as well. These have been great. They're called brown bag lunches, and they run throughout the common lunch break in the Hillary and Trinity terms. What we do here is that we pair students, or they can run a session by themselves as well, to share their expertise, and it's open to the full MBA cohort. We typically have anywhere between 15 and 50 students in each brown bag lunch, and you teach each other. It could be a life experience that you're sharing. It could be coaching skills you've been through. It could be a framework. It could be a social enterprise that you're launching that you want feedback on. And we've had a number of sessions that we invite external guests. You can bring in your networks. You can bring in some problems to solve. It's a really open space, and every year it looks completely different. And these are open to all MBA students. So if you think the Impact Lab is not for you, or maybe it's a big commitment, you can still engage with us, and the brown bag lunch is a great way to do that. Again, these are the career sessions that Dan Cunan runs in the Careers Week, and we do open these all to the rest of the cohort as well. Real practical support, but also developing knowledge and building career skills, particularly around social change. So this is how to find us. If you go onto the SBS website, no doubt, I think Hannah will share these slides with you afterwards. You can email us at the Skull Center if you have any questions about how to engage with us throughout the year. You can follow us on our social media channels, and we have a blog as well. So please stay connected to us. And if you do accept your offer into the MBA, you'll be getting sort of like your MBA arrival newsletters, and we'll be sending out announcements about application dates and things like that so that you don't miss anything. I think I had my personal details up for you as well. There we go. And there's my personal details. I have about a 3 to 5 day turnaround time for email questions. Please feel free to reach out to me as well if you have any questions regarding what I presented, but also just any general questions as well. I'm very happy to answer them for you. Just going to leave that on the screen for a few moments so you can write it down or copy and paste it to do what you need to do. You can also find me on LinkedIn. I'm the only Bronwyn Dugtick in the world. So I'm the only Bronwyn Dugtick on LinkedIn. When I took my husband's surname, because it's difficult to pronounce, I learned later that I didn't have to do that. And I was a bit disappointed in myself as a feminist, but now I'm grateful because I'm quite easy to find. Okay, so I'm going to stop there and I'll have a look at any questions that you have in the chat box. Here we go. Oh, will Impact Lab, okay, you want to work into the impact investing space. Would Impact Lab be more relevant than Finance Lab? As I understood, both are very vigorous and require a lot of commitment. Yes, this is a good question. And we get asked this question every year. You can do both Impact Lab and Finance Lab at the same time. I wouldn't necessarily recommend it, but you MBA students have this incredible ability just to pack a lot into your 1 year. So I would highly recommend you think about it before you do it, or you contact myself or the people who are in the Finance Lab and have a discussion about it. We do coordinate with Finance Lab to make sure that if you've applied to both and you were accepted into both, Finance Lab will run on a Monday night and a Tuesday night. Those two cohorts, and Impact Lab runs on a Tuesday night. So if you do Finance Lab, you'll be put into the Monday night category. You can do both. Finance Lab runs in the Michaelmas term, Impact Lab runs in the Michaelmas and Hillary term. You can always apply for Impact Lab in the Hillary term if you want to do both. If you're interested in getting into the impact investing space, I'd also highly recommend you look at the Mint competition that's run every year. The Mint competition is run by like a student group. So it's not run by the school or faculty, but they do fantastic master classes that you can be involved in. And you can also apply to be a co-chair of the Mint. And there's also the social finance lab run by the careers team. That might be a good in-between option for you as well. Can a student with less than 3 years impact experience make their case to be in the Impact Lab selection? Yes, you can. You can always make your case. Absolutely. And again, we would love to serve everybody. And it's this question of, do we want to go big and provide programming for everybody or much smaller? Again, if you are an impact-driven student, Impact Lab is not the only pathway for you. There's many other pathways as well. So don't feel like if you didn't get into Impact Lab, you haven't made it. There are a lot of other activities for you if you're an impact-driven student. Please remember that when we talk about impact experience, it can be doing something within the existing organization. So have you worked in, a traditionally non-impact corporate, but have been involved in a number of committees and activities, really driving your organization towards sustainability or better EDI practices or procurement processes. So make sure you think about your impact experience. It's a little bit broader. You can also think about internship, volunteering, starting your own thing on the side, whether it's for-profit or non-profit. Those can also be regarded as impact experience as well. And you could have participated on boards and other committees. The reason why we have that 3-year experience, again, is just to make sure that we have a baseline in class so that we don't have to teach sort of, what is a theory of change? And then we decide, do theories of change actually validate the work that we're doing, or is it hindering that work? So it gives us a little bit of a baseline to work with and helps us prepare content a little bit better for you. Is the Impact Career Week one-on-one coaching limited to Impact members only? It is not. There's one-on-one coaching that is available to any Oxford University student around impact careers. And there's a number of career coaches that you can meet with throughout the year. The reason why we do an Impact Careers Week is just to give the Impact Lab students a dedicated set of time to really think about their careers. Sometimes you're so busy, we need to carve out a chunk of space for you. So you'd be like, this week, think about making these decisions. And I think it's very important to do that. But no, you can access careers coaching whenever. You don't need to be part of Impact Lab. Of the activities on Impact Lab, what percentage is done virtually on Zoom versus physical face-to-face right now? At the moment, we are completely in person. On Impact Lab, some of our brown bag lunches, we live stream onto Zoom. And I think some of our sessions, when we have students isolating, we've provided internal Zoom links for them. But everything we do is face-to-face, and we have a bias towards running activities face-to-face. Are there any recruiting events for social impact jobs as part of the program? Not as part of the Impact Lab program. The careers department has a lot of structural hiring, recruiting, sessions with employers, internship opportunities. We can definitely connect you to the careers department that will help you with that. If you have worked in consulting pre-MBA and got some experience in social impact projects, is that being considered as impact experience? Yes. In the Skull Center, are there any activities and research related to healthcare? Oh, such a great question. Yes, there are. I'm sure many of you know our director, Peter Drobak. He's a public health specialist and a doctor. He's very much involved in healthcare and leadership, and there's a number of ongoing activities around leadership in healthcare and systems, which is really exciting. So if you want to learn more about that, definitely we can connect you to our researchers and our director who's working on that. What are some of the examples of careers and roles that Impact Lab alumni have ended up in? So, a lot. So we have about 140 alumni at the moment. So if you look at a trend across Impact Lab, you'll see that we have a lot of sort of traditional NGO philanthropy students that come in and they pivot their careers into more corporate sustainability roles within different corporates around the world. Some of our Impact Lab students will go sort of more into middle management roles, some of them more senior management roles, some of them will become social entrepreneurs and start new projects. Some of you work on the EP project and start whole new businesses and careers. So a very broad range. There is an Impact alumni report available on our website, and there are stories from our Impact Lab alumni that you can read and they'll give you more details about where they're working and how they use the MBA specifically to pivot into those roles. We have a lot of interest in impact investing and of non-financial roles, more looking at sort of like measurement and social modeling as well. So there are definitely trends across the lab, but because you all come from different backgrounds on MBA, you all kind of like branch out into different areas, which is important because we need to collaborate across these different sectors to see change happen. Okay, impact-related careers post-MBA seems to me not connected to financial success in your career. My MBA tuition is a high burden for some students, correct, especially those who lend money from banks. Is my understanding correct? Do you take a pay cut to do an impact-focused career? I think that's what you're asking. Not necessarily, and you can speak to our careers team about this. Do impact careers tend to pay less overall than working for a large bank? Yes, that is a trend. But we are typically seeing that every career in the future will be an impact-focused career. Every career would need to consider EDI. Every career would need to consider climate justice. And so we're seeing a lot of people who are snapped up into big corporates because they have these skills behind them as well. So not necessarily, and I think you are the generation that are gonna change that. But yes, that has been a trend we have seen in the past. Do I have, yes, you can go have a look at the startups created by Impact Lab alumni that are also in our Impact Lab report. So there's a question here whether we have examples of different startups created by Impact Lab alumni. We also would probably have better examples, again, because not all of our Impact Lab students are focusing on building ventures. There are a number of scholars who've also started ventures as well. Just to keep in mind that the Impact Lab is not an accelerator. There are other great programs that the Entrepreneurship Center runs and the Creative Destructive Lab where you can bring in an idea, an ideation lab as well, where you can bring in an idea and you can build that idea into creating a venture. So we don't have a venture focused program. And if you are interested in building a venture using your Oxford year to learn hard skills and network into launching something new, I would think about whether Impact Lab is for you and what could you either do to complement that to get the skills that you want. Is there an overlap between the Impact Lab courses and impact sustainability focused electives on the curriculum? That's a great question as well. So again, there's a lot of social impact in your MBA curriculum anyway. So we have your cores that you do, and you'll get this from your faculty as well, are the Global Threats and Opportunities Oxford, but also the Capitalism and Debate course, which is really focused on impact. And then you've got all the electives that you can choose to create sort of, a portfolio and a more impact focused bespoke program. We try not to overlap on any of the content because that would be pointless. to teach you something that you're going to do in the electives anyway. So again, there's an impact investing elective, there's strategies for impact elective. So there are ways that you will be able to focus on specific content, and then we do content that is not in the MBA to help complement your existing skills that you are learning, like movement building and like systems change and impact accountability and measurement, which is not specifically part of the core of the MBA. Okay. What differentiates Said's social impact program from that of other programs at different schools? I think because the Skull Center is here, but again, I'm biased as well. What differentiates it is that we host the Skullwood Forum every year, which is an incredible convening. We have an amazing affiliates and networks, and we're not just working with people who are, your typical academics. We really focus hard on bringing in practitioners' perspectives as well. And we have an incredible fellowship called the Knowledge Equity Fellowship, which is understanding people's lived experiences. So we often see that people who experience these systems and all of its dysfunction are people who are often most knowledgeable on those systems. And so we want to elevate the lived experience of people who have experienced the dysfunction of systems. And we do that often through our Knowledge Equity Fellowship programs. And I think that brings a different lens to the work that we do in a really meaningful and important way. But again, like I said, I'm biased because I work at the Skull Center and I love it here. Okay, so we have another question here saying ESG's related topic includes company governance. The topic is related to corporate law and finance. Can students research and learn about these topics in the lab? We don't look at governance and finance, we look at accountability overall. So we don't focus specifically on corporate governance and finance in Impact Lab. But again, there are a lot of programs that you can get involved in the business school, including some of the OBNs, which are the Oxford Business Networks, which are your clubs and societies, and you can self-organize a lot of that yourself. So you come in with a lot of ideas, and then by the time you're in your second term, you guys are all on fire, self-organizing your own events, bringing in your speakers. It gets very busy and exciting. To make a pivot into the impact sector, are there opportunities offered during the MBA to help with that? Yes, absolutely. You've got your core courses that you're going to study. You've got your electives to help you pivot. You can attend all of our brown bag lunches. You can attend all of our research seminars. You can look for mentors that we can connect you to. So yes, there are very easy ways to think about your career if you wanted to pivot into an impact space. And again, we have dedicated career advisors to help you do that. And you will be meeting them along the way as well. Are there opportunities and activities surrounding education or EdTech space? I focus specifically on the lab. Yes, there are. There's lots of students and activities that are working in the EdTech space, lots of scholars that we work with, lots of Impact Lab students who are I think so. There's some case studies in your MBA. I'm not sure exactly, but if you could email me and I could see who I could connect you to help you explore that space. What are the components of the Impact Lab application process? So the Impact Lab application process, you would need to submit your application. So we ask you, what are the skills and experience you're bringing to the lab? What are the things that you want to learn during the MBA and from the lab as well? And we want to make sure that the Impact Lab is a good fit for you, and you're also a good fit for the lab. So it's both, right? So we don't want to waste your time. So we want to make sure that what you're expecting of us aligns with what we're offering. So when you're doing your Impact Lab application, make sure you have a look at what we actually offer through our modules, and then kind of like align your application to that. So be really clear about, I want to learn these things because these things are offered on the Impact Lab. So we want to make sure there's a strong alignment there. We're looking for different skills, experience, and expertise. We put together a global cohort on purpose. So we convene a global of different people, and we also look at the different sectors that you've experienced in as well. And then once you've done your application is shortlisted and scored by 3 different people, including alumni and staff. And then you get going around to the interview stage, and then you're interviewed by 2 alumni, and the staff are not there as well. So you will be interviewed by the 2 alumni. And we always give feedback on our application processes. So if you haven't got into Impact Lab, we're happy to give you feedback. If you get into Impact Lab, we have to give you feedback on that. And some of the questions that they ask you in the Impact Lab interview is around your growth mindset and your openness to learning. Do most of the Impact Lab students come from emerging economies? I'm wondering more because of the dynamic social issues that are different backgrounds, emerging, develop, will bring to the table. Yes, exactly. So we have a really great cohort. We have, at the moment, we have out of our 49 Impact Lab students this year, we have 26 countries represented. So we've got students from the global north, the global south, a lot of them from emerging market countries as well. So we have a great diverse representation, and that's also one of the benefits of the lab as well, is just getting these different kinds of mindsets. This person has experience in analytics, and they would like to use their expertise in sustainability areas. Would Impact Lab be the right place for that? Do you have impact experience as well in analytics, or do you want to pivot? If you want to pivot, Impact Lab might not be the right space for you, but some of our exploratory areas might be. And I think that's good to think about. Yes, we definitely need analytic skills in the sustainability sector. Is Oxford, the Skull Centre Impact Lab, able to support students interested in entering foundations to work as program officers and managing grants? What might that support look like? We do have a number of Impact Lab alumni who have gone into philanthropy and foundations and managing grants. Yes. What does the support look like is giving you sort of the foundational tools to think deeply about your work and how it is interconnected to other work, how you distribute power, privilege, resources, and how you measure that in those ways. We don't necessarily offer direct internships, but we do offer for Impact Lab students 3 or 4 spaces to intern with the Skull Foundation, which may be of interest to you, person who wrote that question. We read that one already. This person is in Oxford in early July, and they want opportunities to connect and get involved in the Skull Centre at the start of the term. So July, we are winding down a little bit towards the end of June, July for the year. But if you are here, you can email me and we can meet. And there will definitely be things happening in Oxford. Oxford never sits still. What do you see the program being, a 1-year versus 2-year MBA in the US? Yeah, this is the question that you would need to make. A 1-year MBA is very fast-paced, really intense, but done really quickly, and there's a lot of opportunities to engage with over the year. And identifying how to maximize your personal impact space. I think it's really taking the time to think about what you want to achieve in the year and making sure that the choices that you make align with what you want your outcomes to achieve. Of course, making space throughout the year in case you change your mind about something, which is important to be able to change your mind if something emerges. And then just kind of not applying for everything, but being very thoughtful about what you're applying for. Are there any resources, online books you would recommend coming to the MBA to strengthen the hard skills around social impact who are looking to pivot into that field? Books to read. Okay, let's think. The Systems Work of Social Change by Francois Benici and Cynthia Raynaud is an excellent place to start. We do a lot of systems change work at the Skull Centre. It might not give you the hard skills that you want directly, but it's got some really fantastic case studies. And I think it's a really good way to frame they've got the first chapter really shares a lot about the social impact industry as a whole in a very critical way, and a very enlightening way. So you should have a look at that book. It's really good. Where can we find out specific about the Impact Lab programming online? So you will find out more about the Impact Lab programming online around the modules and the different courses on the MBA portal when that opens up when you accept your offer. And then we'll be updating who our speakers are, when our modules will be delivered, etc. So you can find out more about that. How selective is the Impact Lab process, and how does the Hillary term reaccept applicants? Thank you. That's a good question. So we look at the cohort as a whole in every application process. So if you don't necessarily get into the first cohort in Michaelmas, you can reapply for the Hillary cohort. We won't offer you a space in the Hillary cohort if you choose not to accept your space in the Michaelmas cohort. And the reason why we do this is the way we accept the students into the program. We look at the cohort as a whole. So we look at, say for instance, if we have 6 people who are doing impact investing from North America, we kind of compare that group together around experience and expertise. And if we have 4 people who are working in impact investing in Central Africa or Southern Africa, that we compare those together, and then we bring in this global cohort of different sectors and ideas. And so it's an open and it's very transparent selection process, but we are looking specifically for those high impact students who want to use the MBA to accelerate the impact career. And so we'll select you as a cohort and how we think that you will work together as a group. How can the Impact Lab help? Do you have to be a graduate of the lab to benefit from its resources after you leave Oxford? Absolutely not. You benefit from being in a 300 plus cohort of MBA students. You don't have to be part of the Impact Lab to benefit from being an alumni. You will have people who are really strong impact focused students that are not in my lab this year, but that I know very well and interact with. And we work as a whole family here at SBS. So even though it sounds quite exclusive, there are a lot of other open programmings and other ways to interact with your cohort. And as an alumni of SBS, you have all the benefits of that as well, and being connected to these incredible people. So yeah, that's the answer to that question. And the benefits of being part of the Impact Lab alumni are just remaining connected to this group of people who are practicing within their careers, but are also highly committed to having an impact and a purposeful career as well. And the benefit of that is, like anything, being part of a community is making sure that when you are tired, because there's a lot of burnout in this work as well, and you are struggling, you've got a community of people who you can rely on and you can go to for advice and expertise, which is really important. And that's it, Hannah. Are we done?
Great. Yes, perfect timing as well. Thank you very much, everybody. And we had great engagement throughout the session and loads of really, really good questions come through there that Bronwyn, I think, has managed to answer pretty much all of, which is amazing. Want to say a huge thank you as well to Bronwyn for giving her time today. I know that the Impact Lab is one of the really popular co-curriculars, and so I'm sure gaining more information and insight into the programme itself, but also the application process and some information about the Scholl Centre as well has been really useful for all of you. I hope that some of you will be able to join us for the other sessions that we have running this afternoon. So in 15 minutes time, we have a Q&A session that will be run by our Admissions and Operations Manager, Charlene New, and one of our senior advisors, Gisela Collins. They will be answering any questions that you have about kind of the practical next steps that you might all be thinking about. So things in relation to college applications, visa applications, any questions at all like that. Gisela, Charlene and some colleagues from the visa team will be available to answer for you. And then at 4 p.m. this afternoon, we have a taster lecture that is being run as well. So for anybody who is keen to get an idea of what a typical class might be like if you were to join us on the Oxford MBA, I strongly recommend dialing in for that session at 4 p.m. as well. So I hope you enjoyed the remaining training sessions this afternoon, and thank you very much again for your time. We hope to see some of you again very soon. Thank you.
Thank you.